So Konami just killed Yu-Gi-Oh's nostalgia. That's right. So if you guys been sleeping under a rock this past weekend, like myself, getting over a summer cold, Konami literally just pissed off the community yet again. And this is something I really feel like whoever in their PR department, marketing department that makes these rules about alternate formats for YCS, they need to be fired or literally just slapped and or replaced with someone who knows what to do. So I'm going to shoot straight into the point. Konami just announced for their Time Wizard Edison format that they do that instead of playing Edison, you guys are pretty much playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh! With an old ban list. Now, for you guys that may be a little slow like myself who don't understand what that means, this pretty much means, and the reason why half of the community is pissed off right now is the whole point of Edison was to get the nostalgia back that you had from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day. Meaning things like priority existed, old rulings were in effect, and essentially it was a different card game. Now, when you fast forward this to what this means for the most popular Edison format, which is like, I think the 2011, 2010 format, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't play Edison, I'm going based off of what I think. This changed a lot for a lot of decks. Cards like Future Fusion get its current modern errata effect that makes the card null and void in a lot of decks in the Edison format. Cards like Raikou, they say don't target. So there's a lot of stuff that got changed with this ruling update. And I'm assuming I didn't really look into it too much in depth. I'm just going based off of stuff I read online. This technically means that the first player start with 5 cards and the second player start with 6 cards versus back in the day where it was like both players draw 5 and whoever goes first, you draw for your turn. So once again, this effectively changed. It really just made Edison null and void. And some people are like 50-50. A lot of people don't understand why this is important. It is important because what is the point of playing Edison? People play Edison because they don't like modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Outside of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Just, being a cluster F of fast-paced gameplay, spamming monsters on the extract, building castles essentially. If you guys don't know what I mean by that, the term building a castle when it comes to gaming is essentially just setting up a board that's pretty much unbreakable and getting us into a game state of break my board or bust, or getting into a game state where it's like the turn player, if they go in uninterrupted, they develop a board that's so multi-layered that no matter how good their opponent's hand is, there's literally no way they can literally lose this duel unless they're just really bad and misplay at every step. Edison don't have these issues, which is why it draws a lot of people to the Edison game. And on top of that, Edison format with things like priority, it's just a completely different game in general. And it gives people the nostalgia of playing back in 2011, 2010, or even if they want to go to GOAT format back in like 04 or 05. That's the real reason why people play Edison. People don't want to play Edison with up-to-date metagame, up-to-date erratas, up-to-date whatever, because when you start doing things like that, Konami, you effectively remove the reason why people went to those formats to begin with. It wasn't just to get away from the fast-paced Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. It was also just to play in that era and to see how players played in that era under that certain set of rules. And, for a lot of younger players who maybe get into the game, or the guys that are in like their early 20s, mid-20s, people like myself who might have skipped a few of the Edison formats, like I was around during GOAT, but the 2010, 2011 formats I wasn't around for because I was playing Naruto, CCG. People like that, when we want to get it back into Edison, at least give our shot to see, hey, how would I have done in this format if I had all the cards? Because another thing about Edison that's dope as well, the cards are pretty cheap. You completely remove that and change it into a completely different game, which is why a lot of players are just like roasting them literally all on my Twitter feed, all on Facebook. Edison is dead. Konami killed Edison. Konami killed Yu-Gi-Oh! Konami effing up. Konami just did this. Konami just did that. I'm like, bro, keep y'all foot on Konami's necks, bro. Like, nothing gets done without people complaining. Nothing is done without us bringing it to their attention. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in these companies like Konami, Hasbro, Wizard of the Coast, that I think they just have a lot of old heads in the company that's out of touch with the community. Now, I understand why Konami probably wanted to change these rules for Edison. And they probably wanted to do it. Well, the biggest assumption is outside of pissing people off, because they like to piss people off, I think. The biggest assumption is that they want to have a way for the people who are in their 20s who may be judging the events and or who get into those formats can have an easier transition into modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And while on paper that makes sense, you kind of forget the reason why people created these alternate formats and got them popular anyway. They didn't just create it to get these new players in. We have modern Yu-Gi-Oh for new players. They created these alternate formats to relive their nostalgia, to relive their early 20s, to relive their late teens. When I was at YCS Houston, and I walked past the Edison table to say what up to my homies that went to the event to play Edison, there was tons of players, 30 plus, 40 plus, old school pros like not Pro Winston. What's that one dude now? I can't think of his name right now, but it was a black guy out of New York. Really good pro player. He used to top events all the time. Fraser Smith. He got a YouTube channel too. Fraser Smith. Shout out to Fraser Smith. He was over there, real friendly, real cool dude. And it was a lot of veterans like myself who actually played back in the day, but they probably quit Yu-Gi-Oh! But when they heard about the Edison circuit by the RBET group, they got back into it. And when Konami started doing the official events, they were like, oh my God, this is dope. I'm going to start going to YCSs again. So not only can I say hey to my friends who are still playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, I have a reason to be there too and enjoy my weekend. So I think Konami just missed the mark. This is an easy fix. And I don't think they did it with bad intentions, as I would hope not. I just think they're just out of touch with out of touch with the community, if that makes sense. Now, what's the solution? Because I don't really like complaining without developing solutions. Honestly, man, the solution is stop going to these events. If Konami don't change this back to what it was, and they're saying, hey, this is how we want to run the Time Wizard events. If you guys don't like it, go play somewhere else. Support the non-official events. The RBET group, phenomenal. I've never done any of the tournaments personally, but I know people who go to those events and they have a ball. They're not that crowded. You don't have to worry about being in a super crowded convention center. They're ran by old school Yu-Gi-Oh players, and they typically have good pricing that rival what you would have gotten at a Konami event anyway, minus like the giant card and things like that. But with a lot of stores having giant cards on standby, because people who win those giant cards typically sell them because no one wants to have a giant card in their house. Let's be real. I mean, I personally would, but the average Yu-Gi-Oh player ain't finna do that. A lot of people just, they would just give those off as prizes at their own personal events. Fan-made events have to come up in order to keep Edison afloat and to keep Yu-Gi-Oh afloat as a whole. I've been doing Beyblade, and I know Beyblade is kind of a weird pivot, but hear me out. I've been doing Beyblade for the past, since my son got back into X, I got back into X, and I'm a big Beyblade fanatic. And one thing I learned about when I got into Beyblade is, Beyblade, the community as a whole, the spin top game, is mainly ran by veterans like myself, keeping the game up through a website called the WBO, and a majority of the competitive, hyper-competitive Beyblade events are fan-ran events. So much so that the most competitive gameplay for Beyblade will be at a fan-made event versus an official Hasbro event. And there's a lot of reasons why the Hasbro events are kind of ass. The Japanese Takara Tomy events are betterly ran, but this is a Yu-Gi-Oh channel, not a Beyblade channel. And if you guys want to know about that, maybe I'll do a separate video discussing on why Hasbro is bad. If you know, you know, but you come down to like the fans hosting better events for the player base than the actual companies itself. And it just shows the passion. And these companies just don't care. So we have to just, flip our own money, start our own leagues. And that way, is either companies going to shit or get off the pot. Now, if they get off the pot and move on to something else, hey, it is what it is. But guess what, though? We have our own fan events up and running. We're good. We don't need them. We're self-sufficient. I'm pretty sure the Smash Bros. Community did this as well, because I heard Nintendo Smash Bros. Tournaments were ass, and I heard that the Smash Bros. Community kind of developed their own gaming scene. But I don't know, man. Anyway, man, this is your boy Rogue Hero. I wanted to bring you guys another discussion topic. I hope I don't sound too much like crap. I'm getting over a cold. Feeling a lot better than I did earlier this week. Like my voice was ass. Could not have said any. I couldn't really speak without it hurting. Now I'm feeling a lot better, but I'm still a little clogged up, as I'm sure you guys can hear. I feel like I don't sound like myself fully. But anyway, man, put your thoughts in the comments down below. Smash that like button. We're almost at 23K subs. And man, we out here grinding. More videos to come. And I'm signing out. Peace. See you guys in the next video.